So, welcome to another episode of Coinversation with OCT. We have Chief with us here. He's from Telestai, and he's here to guide us more about what Telestai is and take us on a journey. So, hi, Chief. How have you been doing today? I hope you're doing good.
Yeah, doing well, thank you, mate. It's good to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk to you and help you to learn a little bit more about Telestai and what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. So, I'll kickstart with the question, which is, I would like to know more about you. Like, what do you do, and how did you get into crypto, and some of your background story. That will be a nice start for the audience, I guess.
Yeah, sure. I've been in crypto for it's about 3, maybe 4 years now. So I've been in and around the industry about that amount of time. I started as a proof of work miner. So primarily I built GPU rigs and spent a lot of time mining different coins. I really have a love of proof of work. I feel it's a very good construction of consensus mechanism. I feel like it's the most decentralized for a project, which means it allows everyone to participate in that project. And it's just something also from I love tech and I love computers. I love building rigs to create mining rigs. So that's something that I really enjoyed. So that's what I primarily do in the crypto industry. Sort of began the sort of conversation around Telestai. I'm going to say it's about 12 months ago in terms of when I first began to sit down and plan this project. And we sort of launched in August. So there was a little bit of work that we needed to do on the code base. And we sort of launched the mainnet in August. And outside of that, I'm in business. So I work in a business industry that is looking a lot at merchandising and sales and patterns like that. So I spend the time when I'm not doing things for Telestai, doing that and taking care of my family.
Oh, that's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. What you're wearing right now is from the same merchandise, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, so we haven't released this to the public yet, but we will. So we've got kind of a hat with the logo, and as you can see, sort of a shirt with the logo on it as well. So we have a very talented design and marketing team who designed the logo for us. So their name is Rhubarb Media. They've had some experience with a number of different projects. Most well known of their projects is probably Casper, which is a top 50 coin. Really well constructed coin, great code base, excellent marketing. The sort of head of Rhubarb Media and I are friends, and sort of I talked to him about what we're doing with Telestai, and he was quite interested, so I wanted to engage with us on some work, and we ended up with some great branding, and we've got a lot more work that he's going to be undertaking for us in the future.
That's amazing. That cap and that t-shirt absolutely looks dope. So yeah, I mean, good work there. So yes, so I'd like to jump on to the next question. It's more or less about the white paper, which I read on your website itself. So the Telestai white paper, it discusses the limits of full decentralization and advocates for freedom within a framework, right? So how does Telestai strike a balance between decentralization and the necessary uh, oversight to ensure ethical and functional ecosystems? Because I mean, the full decentralization hype has always felt a bit naive to me, but it surely is great for autonomy, but some oversight is actually very necessary, so or else you're leaving the door wide open for abuse, I feel. So I'm really curious to see how Telestai is walking through this tightrope.
Yeah, look, I think it's funny. You and I are on the same page with that, and that's primarily where the white paper has sort of come out with. So I'm very much in that same pattern where there are some elements within decentralization, where it can be taken into realms that you don't want it to go. So one of the very lesser known elements of Bitcoin is for a period of time you could actually inscribe onto Bitcoin messages, and you can inscribe links and things. They've actually removed that technology, I believe, for the grassroots to be able to do that. And they did that primarily because the people that were inscribing things were putting things that developers looked at and went, we really don't want that inscribed on the blockchain for all eternity. And I really resonate with that. So my perspective is that true freedom is found within the right framework. There has to be some element of, I suppose, not so much human oversight, but human awareness of our limits and, how far we can go on in certain areas. And so when I was actually taking a lot of look into decentralized social media, which is obviously where we're playing, one of the projects that I actually looked at was a project called Mastodon, because they have actually undertaken a little bit of a project to tackle decentralized social media themselves. But one of the issues that we found with that project, and this is no reflection on the coders or the people who are driving it, but merely a reaction, was that there were certain elements within that social media ecosystem which liked to engage with content or engage with areas which makes a lot of other people, I suppose you call it the 95% of people, quite uncomfortable. And we felt that was, something that we ourselves, when we were creating Telestai, needed to be very aware of. So our background and understanding of decentralized social media is we want a platform which is not owned by a group of people. It's not owned by a corporation, but is in fact owned by the community who run and support it through nodes and through mining. And within that, what we're doing is we're actually implementing moderation that looks at an AI bot that will actually initially moderate the platform. That AI bot will then allow or be very clear in what it's moderating, so people are aware of where the boundaries are. There's no sort of unknowns in that area, and the AI will actually do its job. So it will prevent posts from being posted that don't conform to that, what we call the charter. We're calling it the Charter of Ethics. So it will review it against that, and we're still sort of a work in progress of how does that look, because obviously there's a lot of context. The second part is we're aware that AI also itself has limitations and may occasionally be a little bit too lax or a little bit too harsh in its moderation. So what we're wanting to also do is implement a secondary backup to that, where if someone is posting something and a viewer or a user sees that and goes, we're really not sure if that should be on the platform, they'll be able to put it through a voting process whereby a number of users who are on the platform will be selected at random and will be asked to review the content and moderate it accordingly based off that charter. So what that will do is it'll catch the content that obviously the AI is not correctly attuned to yet. We can then teach AI to actually look for that. And then obviously the platform remains both legal and also safe for people to use. And alternatively, if AI is a little bit too harsh, that voting process can kick in as well, and people can look at it and go, is this okay or is this not? And in that way give people an opportunity to say, hey, look, we think AI has perhaps been a little bit heavy-handed. Can we just review this and get it looked at? So the pros of this is that firstly, we've got a neutral arbiter that is actually looking at moderation firstly, and that will catch 80 to 90% of all the content that needs to be caught. And then for that remaining 10%, we have a sort of a communal voting process that will look at it and actually adjust things where they need to. So that's how we've created that freedom with a framework, and that's how we think that our platform should be moderated. Because in that way, it's not about the team's views, it's not about the team enforcing a narrative or a political stance or anything particular that the team is passionate about. It's actually people get to post what they believe they're passionate about. And if there are disagreements on a platform, we would encourage people to actually have the conversation and argue for their point of view, argue against the point of views, and be reasonable in that.
All right, that makes a lot of sense. So I see the testnet version 2 is available now, right? If I'm not wrong, and the version 3 is coming soon.
Yeah, so it's you've caught us at a good time. Actually, we're in the process of migrating from version 2 to version 3. Our version 3 is currently restricted but live. We've been playing with it today. It's imminent in terms of its release within the next week or two, and we'll be advising people of that. But we're actually very, very close to having a fully functional platform that's node based, ready to launch. So it's very exciting. And with that, there'll be an element where to be on the platform, you do need to hold a little bit of TLS to ensure that you can moderate against bots and spam. And that's just to keep, again, the platform safe, but also show true users. Because one of the things that we've seen on, say, that the X platform or some of the Meta platforms is that they are quite filled with spam bots. We know that annoys people. We don't want that for our platform. And so holding a little bit of TLS allows us to, enact a no spam policy, shall we say.
All right, that makes a lot of sense. And like you mentioned, Telestai's vision, of course, it includes addressing the monopolization of media platforms, like you mentioned, and the manipulation of online spaces. So, uh, my question to you is that how will your ecosystem, the Telestai ecosystem, practically challenge these, powers? Because what I feel is that the big tech, let's be real, they aren't going down without a fight. And decentralized projects often have great intentions, that's true. But when it comes to taking on these people, taking on these giants like Google or Meta, the how is everything there. And I've also seen a decentralized, it's a social media platform, I guess it's called Farcaster, if I'm not wrong. Like I saw it was building uh, the year before, or maybe the year before than that. So yeah, what do you have, what are your thoughts on that? Like, how do you take, how, what is your approach about that? Do you want to challenge these guys, or you want to just make a lane of your own? So, yeah.
So before I answer that question, one thing I'd just ask is, you have roughly how many people within your community that love your show, watch your show, and consume it on a regular basis? Just roughly, what is the number that you have?
uh, I mean, it's separate for every ecosystem, every platform. Like on X, there are thousands of people who visit, read our content every day. On YouTube, there are hundreds of people who are there. They have their notification bell turned on, and they come visit and watch. So the number is not same all on different platforms. I
So
so
you have many thousands of people there that love to consume the content that you're producing, though, and that's kind of the point that I was wanting to strike. Right, you have an audience, right? Your audience is
right.
special to you, and your audience wants the content that you're producing. Where we're going to separate and differentiate ourselves is, currently all the major platforms do not remunerate people or even allow them to select how they wish to commercialize the content that they're producing. Now, to give you a little bit of, you know this better than most, but maybe some of your viewers don't understand necessarily the lengths of how you go to create content. There's the artwork that you need to do. There's the promotion. There's the hours of time that, talking to people like me, you've got to, talk to lots of different people. And there's a huge amount of investment from your perspective to actually produce a good show, right? Each week or each day, or however often you're going with it. And in the process of doing that, that time never fully gets back from, say, the YouTubes or the X platforms or Meta platforms, the remuneration that you probably deserve, right? And it actually makes the platform a lot more money, right? Because they're actually taking all the advertisements and all the money that they're receiving in third-party sponsorships and commercializing that on your behalf. So we like to say that you get the crumbs and they get the cake, right? Our paradigm is that we're going to flip that, and we're actually going to empower you to actually say, well, we believe that our content is worth this, right? So you get the chance to say, if you have a monthly subscription to your channel and it's $1 a month, and every user that you have that subscribes pays $1 a month, whatever that might be, that means that you get the full proceeds of it. The Telestai ecosystem is not going to tax you for the use of that, for the commercialization of that content, right? You hold everything, you get everything back, right? What that means is you're finally in charge of the content that you're creating. You get the full sway and the full commercial benefit of that. And so what we believe is that actually that frees content creators to produce more, better, more interesting content, the stories that they want to tell, because their audience is then engaging with them and remunerating them accordingly. And we sort of believe in a little bit of a capitalist view on that. You will charge what you believe that your customers are able to pay. And if they, if they can pay a little bit more, you'll charge a little bit more. If they can only pay so much, you'll charge so much. And so you've got that opportunity to actually set the fees yourself. Now, we don't think that that necessarily competes with the other platforms, right? And the reason why I say that is because we're creating a new paradigm. We're not trying to change the existing paradigm. We're creating a new paradigm. We're going to fully inject into content creators autonomy over their content and their commercialization of that. And we want that for them. So that's kind of how we're going to, I suppose, tackle the problem. What we believe we'll see is a bunch of content creators who've historically been either censored or ratioed or not remunerated appropriately take up our platform, produce the exact same content that they've always produced, and get paid more money for it. And we think that's better for the ecosystem.
I mean, yeah, fair enough. Because most of these giants, take a major chunk of, like you mentioned, you get the crumbs, they get the chunks. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and that also motivates the creators to stay on the platform, roll out more content for the viewers because they are valuing them at what you think the right value is. So yeah, that is absolutely nice. And like I would be waiting for the platform to go, live for everyone. And if there's something you could, share your screen and show to our audience, like it would give them a much better visual experience if that is possible for now, or we can do it later on. That's fine.
We can definitely do it later on. I can show you where V3 is sort of looking to go at the moment. I'll give you the throughput page. And I can also give some information around another of our element as well. So one thing that we also know is that you as a user, right, and not as a content creator, consume content, right? But the problem is that the platform makes money out of the users as well. It scrapes all of your metadata and it sells it to advertisers. And we think, again, that paradigm is wrong. So rather than try to beat them at their own game, we're going to create a new paradigm, which means we have given users the opportunity to, if they want to, sell their data, their viewing data through to the advertisers directly and get a proportionate amount of money for what the payment of that data is. And in that same way, then content creators and content users or platform users basically are commercializing their experience on our platform. We think that's seriously important.
I mean, yeah, that's also a great approach towards that, because more or less people don't even ask about your data. Like they're selling it off to major companies without even your permission. Like if someone is fine with it, he should get compensated with money at least. So yeah, that's actually nice. And yeah, I
Completely
get what you're
agree.
trying to say there. So yes, moving on. Like yeah, first of all, I'd be excited to see the platform whenever you're ready, or whenever you want to show that to us, our team. So yes, moving on. I have one more question for you. No, go on. You have something.
No, go for it.
All right. So I was just jumping on to the other question. Like I was talking about, I was going through your white paper again. So there's this thing I read, the Meraki algorithm, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, correct.
So I read that it promises low power mining, right? So, given the environmental criticisms of blockchain tech, how does you Telestai's energy efficiency compare to other major networks like maybe Bitcoin or Ethereum? Because energy consumption in blockchain is like a big problem, right?
Yeah. So
So,
that's a great question. I think there's a couple of different ways to look at this question. And I think a lot of people need to kind of consider um, there's always a cost to doing something, okay? Whether that is uh, the cost of time, the cost of money, the cost of energy. People suggest that, proof of stake is completely energy efficient and it doesn't have an energy payment load at all. But that's actually incorrect. The payment load exists on the server systems that major companies like Google, Azure, Amazon, Microsoft are actually using, right? That payload is substantially more than what for instance, the Bitcoin network is actually utilizing at this current period, right? So the question is not so much an energy efficiency perspective, but the question is an energy availability question, and that's a societal problem. We don't propose that we have the solution to that at the moment, but what we're proposing is that for a blockchain to be properly secured, it needs to be thermodynamically secured, and that is by utilizing power to hash the consensus mechanism and keep things secure. The second part to that is centralization of a network often happens in proof of stake consensus algorithms because the starters of that algorithm of that project inevitably hold the majority of the share of the wallet. And what ends up happening is they control the network, right? So they can actually force through changes into the nodes because they've got the majority of the share. What we have focused on is decentralization through GPU mining. Now, no consensus mechanism is ever going to be 1000% secure from, say, ASIC centralization. There are always going to be people who try to build bigger, better machines, right? We can't avoid that. But what we've got is an algorithm which we can tweak and adjust and change as we see fit. Now, that algorithm, Meraki, is designed to be very similar to the ETH hash hashing algorithm. So its efficiency is quite good. It's not quite as good as, say, Casper or some of the super low power algorithms for proof of work are, but it's significantly less than SHA, which is what Bitcoin utilizes. And it is very easy for a home miner to spin up a couple of GPUs or however many they want and actually contribute to the consensus.
That's nice. And yeah, the way you mentioned, like everyone is, after solving the blockchain trilemma, like if you go full proof of stake, you're missing out on the decentralization part, and there's a lot of, it's just the opportunity cost you think is correct for your project and for, taking it to the next level. So yes,
Yep.
that makes a lot of sense.
We also believe miners have a really powerful role in actually building crypto. We believe that they become the bedrock of the community, and we want to support them by producing an algorithm that's A, great for their GPUs, but B, prioritizes them as a part of the community.
I mean, yeah, that's coming from you, and that makes a lot of sense. You have been on the other side also, and you know how it feels. And yes, even I feel the same because miners are actually a very core, aspect of the whole industry. And like talking about Casper, their hash rate is like going up and up and up, and that's a really bullish sign for the miners to be there, present there, and that's nice.
Yep.
So yeah, moving on. I just have another question I'd like to ask you. It's
Yeah,
more or
sure.
less about the white paper again. Like that's what I read before coming here. So uh, your white paper basically discusses the open hand and the closed hand issues for acceptable conduct in the ecosystem, right? So
Yep.
my question to you is that how do you plan to enforce these guidelines, without veering into censorship? Because uh, people hate censorship, but when you leave everything unmoderated, chaos also takes over. So I know you know, gone through that again, but I really want to know how Telestai plans to be both the referee and the player without upsetting the game and like having
Yep.
that middle ground in here, because that is something that matters a lot.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that. I've got a family. I don't want my family exposed to content on the internet that is, not good for them. So I suppose that comes from that desire to have open and closed hand is coming from a family position. You need to create safe environments so people can be fully themselves and fully able to engage and not feel unsafe or not feel like the stuff that they're being exposed to is negative to them. So that's one thing that we're really keen to do is create that safe environment. How we're going to do that is we're going to have a very clear charter of ethics, which we say these are the things which are not allowed to be on the platform. We're not an OnlyFans. We're not going down that path. We don't want extreme violence, so we're going to obviously say that. We would like to obviously limit obscenity in its extreme form. We understand that there are some people that use it, and we're not totally against them using it, but let's try to use the language that we've been given as best as we possibly can. And so the AI will be responsible for enforcing that charter, and that charter will be public. It'll be very clear, and it will cover the really extreme things that we want to make sure we are clear on. Now that's kind of what we call closed hand pieces. So that those topics are very important and can't be breached. Open hand is where there's an element of contextual differences. So we know, for instance, you and I live in different countries. The side of the road that you drive your car on is probably different to the side of the road that I drive my car on, right? So it's a case of there's different situations and different things that are right in different times and contexts, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're at an overarching level wrong. It just means that they're different. So you've got to be sensitive to the culture, and you've got to be sensitive to the context that you're in. What we're trying to look to do is allow users to create their own nodes and to contribute to some of that AI moderation element, where we say, if this is a group that's talking about cars, for argument's sake, we'll try to restrict it a little bit more towards cars rather than have other content. And that's just something that we're looking at. We want to give people the chance to craft environments where certain contextual elements are respected and understood, and therefore the platform responds in that way. So that's something that we're very keen to push forward. The additional thing that I will say to that is our goal is actually to not have an algorithm. We're going to make sure everything is time-stamped and put to the user in a linear way. But when you, as the user, are given that opportunity to look at new content, different content that you might not be following from users, you'll get to define that algorithm. And in that sense, you'll get the chance to say, look, I don't want to see any of that type of stuff. And the algorithm that you then sort of choose and curate will respect that. We believe those decisions are very important. You have autonomy over what you see. And in fact, social media should serve you, not the other way around.
Yeah, I mean, I reiterated the fact of moderation of content because lately we've seen the pump.fun case, and like that was really, if you're aware of it, like there was obscene things going on there, people building their coins and like threatening to do nasty stuff out there on the internet, and that's not the way to go forward because the industry already somewhat has this shady side to it, and you're just I feel that's one of the major reasons the Solana ETF is getting delayed and delayed and delayed. So that's a different thing altogether. But then, like you mentioned, there's a thing. The following thing, the people you're following, you're getting content out of them on the basis of the timestamps. And there's a for you section where you can decide, you can select stuff you want to see. If I want to watch cricket, I'll select cricket. If I want to read about cryptocurrency, I'll so that's the exactly how social media should be. And I don't want to see a random thing that has popped off on every feed and that's coming on my for you section. It may not be right for me. So that's actually a thing. The consumers, if I'm talking about the consumers part, consumers need to have control on that. So yeah, that's actually pretty nice. And like I'll just end off with a few questions about the tokenomics and stuff I read on there. So it's just that because I read that uh, Telestai is allocating 25% of the block rewards to development, right? So, which is actually a bold move because you have to ensure this funding is used effectively, and you have to remain transparent to the community because I think that's very important because uh, just throwing money at things does not guarantee results, and transparency is one thing. Transparency and accountability that is the real litmus test for the idea of uh, going through with that. So that's the part one of the question. And the second part, adding to that, is that you have a total supply of 1.96 billion coins, right? And I guess 117 coins are allocated per block for project development. So, how do you also ensure that Telestai's tokenomics remain sustainable in the long run?
Yep, great question. Firstly, from a dev point of view, because we're fair launch, there's been no pre-mine, there's been no allocation of coins or tokens taken by the team. We get what is called I suppose a fair share of the mined reward, and we say it in that sense because we're reliant then on the mining community to continue the consensus mechanism. So we decided on 25% because frankly, how much is the right amount is sometimes a little bit unknown with these projects. But what we wanted to declare is that figure can change in the future as we continue to build, because we can actually adjust it where we see fit. But at the moment, what we need is resource to continue to build the platform. We have a very talented dev team. There's 5 devs that are working on this. They're all very talented, and they're all around the world. They need to eat and clothe themselves, and so we utilize the coin to help them with that part, but also for things like bounties and just creating a little bit of liquidity on the market. We support in that sense. So that's what we use the coin for. We've also got, obviously, as I've mentioned, Rhubarb Media and a young community manager, who both of which are very talented. They need to be, supported as well. But the bounty piece is one that I wanted to just touch on. So what we're wanting to do is actually allow users to say, we found this bug. This is how we came about it. This is what we've done to generate it. And then from that, we actually reward them for telling us, rather than just going, well, I'm just going to click off the page or whatever. The reason that's important is feedback in these situations creates a better user experience and creates a better platform naturally. So we want people to feel like they're invested in the actual platform and be rewarded for that. So that's kind of part one. So the dev fee is used in ways that people see, they understand. We also take care of the costing. So we don't ask the community to contribute to, when we want to list on an exchange or whatever, we basically solve that problem ourselves. And that's because we believe that the people who are mining the coin or potentially buying the coin to invest can actually use that coin for what they intend it to be for, either buying content, mining to stack, buying to invest. We believe that needs to be their coin. So we don't want to place a burden on them. The second part, in terms of the tokenomics itself and its sustainability, we follow a very similar path to Bitcoin. We have a halving every 4 years. And what that does is it will continue to limit supply. As supply from the block reward is limited, it creates demand, which will hopefully create a positive influence on the project's overall value. Why that's important is because we want those who are mining and buying to be rewarded long term, but also it means that the people who are initial early adopters will gain the largest benefit out of using our platform. So that's an incentive for them. In terms of its sustainability, because it's mined, it's consistent, it's a block a minute. If you've got a GPU, you will be getting a reward every minute from pool mining. And in that sense, it allows transactions to be quick and speedy. TLS will be used to pay for content on the platform, and so we wanted it to be relatively quick. So that minute block reward is good for that process. So we are quite sustainable because we follow the same mechanisms that Satoshi laid out in Bitcoin, and we trust that the proof of work process is solid.
I guess there's someone on your door, maybe.
Oh yeah, it's just probably the kids. So I don't know what they're doing.
All right. Yeah. So coming back, so thank you for answering that very nicely, because it's very important for the community to know what's going on behind there and what the tokenomics suggests, right? So that's why we had to bring on that question, and you answered that really well, Chief. And I would like to thank you for coming on this platform and sharing more about Telestai. And we at our Crypto Talk are really excited to see what the future holds for Telestai and for you in general. So thank you for coming here, and I hope all the best for the Border Gavaskar Trophy as well. Let's hope to see some great matches in the upcoming, you know,
Yeah, no, thank
Cheers.
you so
So
much for having us, and we look forward to further conversations with you. We'll be certain to reach out when we get the platform up and running, and help you to learn how to engage with that, because we'd love for obviously to see your channel grow and to see you remunerated for what you produce, because you produce some great content. So thank you again.
absolutely, thank you so much, Chief. And like, we'd love to get back again and see what it is all about. See the platform, use it ourselves, and like show the people out there what it is all about. So thank you again. Thank you so much for your time, Chief.